We decided to do something very different this time. Although the challenges are fun, we are really, really big into conversation. I think if we could label ourselves, it'd definitely be conversationalists. So we decided to let you guys in on one of our conversations.
You better get your shit together, my nigga.
So I'm Jay.
And I'm Jamie. Real, more so than different. Like, this is what
that's true.
we'd like to be doing most of the time.
Yeah, so this is us not being different. This is us being us.
It's new to you. Old to us, new to you. And we are very excited to bring you into that world with us.
Yeah, for sure. So what we were opening up with was acceptance. I think that's where we veered off to. And we actually stayed there, was talking about acceptance. It had a lot to do with millennials. It had a lot to do with the LGBTQ community. It has a lot to do with the heterosexual community. It's actually just like this really broad topic. So when we're talking about this, we are talking about it on such a broad spectrum. So we definitely ask you to come into this being open-minded. Maybe leave your political correctness at the door. Because this might get a little honest. Let's say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not even a little. It's if you know us, it's gonna get a lot honest.
I mean, would you want to even open up that conversation with the fact that politically, if you're Democrat, if you're liberal or moderate, like however you decide to explain your views, that whatever the side of the left is really rejecting of criticism and honesty and how we have to like mold our conversations all the time, like shushing a toddler.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's dive into that. Actually, I like that. So we were talking about earlier. We were really talking about how we do believe society has like this like filter now, and it's like. It's really funny because we live in a society that's like, be yourself, be you, I want to be me. And then it's like, but then you're filtering your ideas and your opinions, avoiding hurting people. And that's just like such a jumbled mess at this point because it's kind of like, I mean, if you're not speaking your truth, then you're not necessarily honest or genuine to a certain degree. Right? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, what we display every day publicly is us with a filter.
Oh, yeah.
It's on everything, on all your social media apps.
Yeah.
There's a option to filter it.
Yes.
And we definitely lean towards the filter. Because, I mean, it makes things look better, but does it make it genuine? No. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine, but not for language, not for conversation, not for communication.
Especially when we kind of stand on ground that says freedom of speech. Now it's kind of like freedom of speech, but be emotionally correct, please, because you're going to hurt people. And it's like, that's hard to try to protect every single person's feelings when like we live in such a cultured and diverse world. Like, some people are going to be offended. And honestly, at the end of the day, you just got to trust the person that's speaking. Like, how often do you say something that you technically didn't mean, but you meant in the moment? And then you have to be like scarred by that. But like, that's what being educated is. That's what growing is saying like, I believe this at one point and I don't now, or I believe this at one point, I still believe in it, but not as harshly as I did once before.
Yeah, about growing, but society definitely wants you to make things look pretty. And, you know, that's a really hard standard to meet, is to know exactly what offends everybody. Like, we're not superheroes by any means. We don't read minds. If things are true, to be accepted, it's what is true to me, what I believe. And what you believe is different from what I believe. We could have similar beliefs, but we don't have the same experience. So even if my truths are your truths, we have different standards for why there's true to us, like why it's true. Because my life is different from yours. Your life is different from mine. And somehow we have a belief that's common, but it doesn't hold the same emotional and spiritual elements that it might do for you. And I'm glad that it's true, but I shouldn't have to mold the reason why it's true to me so that it can make you feel included.
Yeah, so it can fit your truth.
So it can fit why it's true to you.
Right. Why can't it be true without limitation? Like, we can both agree that it's true to us and not force the idea of why it should be true to you.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of ties into what we were talking about with acceptance and normality. It's really, like I said in the beginning, is like a lot of people are desperate to be accepted, and this is where we go into, like, I mean, it really isn't just about the LGBTQ community. It's kind of about everyone. So we decided to kind of dabble around with the dictionary and kind of go into what acceptance means properly, and then the way that we've actually shaped it into society. So one of the ones that stuck out to me was to endure without protest or reaction. So it's kind of like, to me, is when you're shouting out to someone, accept me, you're actually not using it properly, in a sense that you're actually asking them to not already have a formed opinion about you, and for them to decline who you are immediately, but they've already done that. So how can they accept you when they've already protested you? Or they reacted in a negative way. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like what Jamie said. You're actually asking for respect or tolerance. And I don't think tolerance should actually be that bad of a word when it comes to demanding someone to feel a certain way. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to force you to be okay with me because, by society's standards, you should, or you look like a bad person. Because I just think that's not fair. And that's the direction that we've actually gone in, is publicly shaming people because they don't accept something. And it's like, I mean, I'm not going to change your entire mindset today by publicly shaming you, and that's the way that you have to learn.
Right.
I'd rather you learn by talking to me. I'd rather you learn by having a conversation that meant something to me and you finding common ground, not me just saying like, hey, fuck you. You should be more accepting. And it's like, I mean, now you definitely don't like me because now I'm insulting you.
Yeah, that's going on exactly what I was talking about in a political spectrum, and then, just in general. That asking people to not have an opinion about what you're asking them to accept. And so, I mean, to be complicit with something without an explanation is being dumb. You want people to be dumb. You want them to be ignorant, and that's not okay. Right. They have to react or protest if that's what they're feeling, because you have to experience a feeling to understand it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so they need to react. They need to protest because they need to know their convictions and what's fueling the reason why they're not accepting it.
Yes.
And maybe they can go back and change that so it can align with their acceptance of you. Because if they don't accept you because the Bible told them to, then that's their ground. That's their moral ground. You're telling them to change, pull up all their foundations of what they believe, and then start to put you in piece by piece, and to take everything that they know away and accept you, or put you first and believe in you and not have an opinion about you. Right. And I'm thinking like, no, like if that's like, I have to accept that you don't accept that because of, I have to be understanding is all I'm saying.
Let's put that
that's
there.
both.
It
goes two ways though. So it's like, I need to understand why you don't accept me. And if it's because of the Bible, then I get that. And I should be okay with that. I should be able to say, well, I know why. Can that be enough? Because we're like, accept me, change your... But at least if they tell you, if they protest, if they react, you can at least know why. If you get nothing from it, you'll know why they don't accept you. Right. And then you can... That's closure for you. I think that can be enough. And we're trying to tell people to accept everything all the time and not being able to walk away. We keep gambling on our faith in people when we get disappointed.
That's true. I definitely want to stop pressuring people to have to believe in something that I believe. Like, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's kind of like you can't sit here and tell me that you don't believe in something. Like, you don't have any moral ground of your own. And then when someone turns around and, disrespects that or disregards it, you want to talk to them about it. You want to know why they believe that, right? You're not just pouncing on them and calling them ignorant. You want to get to the bottom. Or at least anybody actually tolerant or educated or good and, have good intention is going to want to know why that you don't believe what they believe. And that's just that. It's just to literally say, I want to understand you. I don't want to hate you for believing what you do. So, I mean,
And
that would...
some people believe what they believe because they don't question it at all.
Right.
If a person, and I don't want to always be dumping on religion, but I think that it plays a very vital role. But, if the Bible or whatever, the Quran or whatever is telling you that this is what you should believe, what they develop from is having blind faith. So not having proof of something and still believing it anyway. Having that be your foundation for what you believe in, that's really hard to protest. You know what I mean? This person believes in something and they don't have proof. So imagine how stubborn, how deeply embedded they must be in that conviction that they have. And for you to just appear and say, well, do it my way now.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
For them, and just why demand that from them?
And then, like, coming from, like, the whole, like, LGBTQ community, being a woman, being black, this is actually coming from those people that are saying, like, hey, stop being so hard on people that don't understand you. Like, stop. And then at the end of the day, also, it's not like you're saying, well, why? They weren't... I've had to fight to be me. Well, don't put other people through that same fight. Like, that's a contradiction. Like, how it feels to be misunderstood. So why put somebody else through that as payback, eye for an eye type deal? Like, we're not helping that argument or that battle. We're only trying to get back at the people that misunderstood us. Like, no, the movement is about being understood, and that's it. I think for me, that's what the gay community should really, fight for, is being understood and not being accepted. Like, I really truthfully feel like we don't need to be accepted. Like, we just need to be understood. Like, just understand me for a second and respect me. And that's it. Because I don't need your acceptance, because what we've already learned from acceptance is that, or to be accepted is just to be given approval. And then at the end of the day, it's like, why would I need that from you? Why would I feel like if you don't have that for me, then I can't be me? That just sounds so not our agenda.
That says a lot about the person. Like, when they're asking you to accept them, and if they're going to great lengths to do that, it says a lot about what they're asking for. Yeah. It's like, what is it about me that needs to be accepted by you?
Right.
Like, what pedestal are you on that I'm making it a priority?
Right. And how gone am I within that I can't recognize that I can still be me and do me without your approval? Why can't you trust in yourself enough to be able to give yourself that own acceptance?
Exactly. That's because it's about you. Do you accept you?
Right. Yes.
Forget that. Okay, so you're asking me and them. What about you? Like, when you are by yourself, when you have that spiritual awakening or that spiritual oneness with yourself, when you spend time with yourself, or do you even spend time with yourself? I try to, when I did work at the hospital, I asked the kids all the time, like, how much time do you spend with yourself? And there's a big difference between isolating and having some time to yourself. When you isolate, you're saying, the world hates me and they want me to be gone, or I hate the world and I want them to go away. Those are the one of two reasons why you want to isolate. Now, if you say, I need to be by myself because I need to sort some things out, that's different, and that's not toxic.
Well, I'll say what is what is projected to be isolation is typically associated with the world is overwhelming me, or I'm overwhelmed with the world. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like with that being not all the time is isolation just you being pissed off. Like some people actually take it as like I'm gonna isolate myself so I can find that time with myself, but it's
that's
often
not isolating.
it's
is what I'm
often
saying.
negated.
It's what no, you don't use the word isolate if it's for a therapeutic purpose, is what I'm saying. Isolation is just one of those telltale signs of an anger problem or a depression. It's when you say that I need to get away for the wrong reasons. But when you spend some alone time, when you meditate, when you pray, those are saying like I'm spending some time with me and my inner thoughts or with my God to understand some things, to say them out loud, to deal with them, or to figure them out. And when you isolate, I feel like people just, they're thinking for the world. They're thinking, man, the world sucks. This and that is what's going on, or I suck, and this is what people are thinking about me.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, to get into that, because you would know that I've had like several like Instagram accounts. So I think that, yeah, when you talk about isolation, I literally thought I needed to delete those accounts to get myself away from that, because I was actually battling with myself. Like, oh, people are thinking this of me. They're thinking that of me. I'm actually losing my mind, being overindulged in this stuff. And I was literally making up ideas of what people were thinking about me, and I felt like if I got rid of this, then people knew I was serious about getting my shit together and isolating. So that's very true. Is like at the end of the day, like you don't need to spend time with yourself. Like you should actually kind of surround yourself with things that are going to make you better. Isolation isn't always the best answer, especially when you don't even know how to talk to yourself.
Exactly.
You don't know the kind of talks to have with yourself to actually heal. So I think, you should start with inclusion.
That's what prayer and meditation is what I'm saying. It's coming into acceptance of self, like anticipating that time you're about to have with yourself, versus closing the door on yourself or the world.
Yeah, anticipating the time you get to spend. Like it's a luxury to get to spend time with yourself, not isolation so you can dictate yourself to get it together.
Or, and I know people are going to say, yeah, I pray to spend time with my God. And however you may look at that, and God might be there, but you are alone when you need to do it. Or you are in a group when you do it, but it's still mentally it's just you and that higher connection.
So when we talk about that, we're actually where would we connect? Let's talk about like where acceptance lies with social media. Like where do you see acceptance going far as how it's influenced social media today?
How has the lack of acceptance, or like
no, just it in general? Yes, I'm glad that you asked that. So more so, where do you feel like acceptance has made an influence on social media?
I find it to have made it harder for people to do that, because that's another way of getting a tangible confirmation that you're doing something right.
Yeah. Like how much thought is actually going into that though? Like, I think that's a good question to start. Like, if I actually truly want to ask myself, like, I mean, I could flip the question on myself, and it's, do I accept myself? Like, if you're ever, like, confused on if you do or not, if you've never actually had to ask yourself that question, and you pause for a moment and you think, do I? I really would love to know what comes to mind when you ask yourself that. When you think about it, you were saying how they think about it, or whoever may think about what they're saying before they say it, and ask, would this be acceptable? Would this be, would this capture attention? Does it somewhat validate me to say this? I would say if I had to think that before I posted it, then I'm actually looking for acceptance, and I don't accept myself, because I should be able to just say what I mean. But then that's where we're going to hop off right into the conversation of having to filter your opinions.
Well, in the beginning, social media, it wasn't intentional to do that. That's why there was no filters at first. Like, filters didn't come with the app. It just evolved in there. As public outrage started to come, public shaming came about, when people have critiqued your things very highly.
And we're not talking about just physical filters. There's actually like regulations on what you can say. You know, there's keywords that will automatically be blocked. Yeah, if the minute you say it, you're blocked, you're banned, you're in Facebook jail or Twitter jail. I don't know if it's such a thing, but yeah, so continue. I was just saying, like, you know, to kind of clarify that this isn't just about physical filters. This is about, you know, regulation as well.
Of thought. Yeah. Regulating the way people are thinking.
Which wasn't done before.
Like no, it wasn't. Yeah. I mean, in the evolution of the technologies that we have now, you know, things were just kind of to chance. And now, since we know the algorithm of our public outrage, we have to kind of monitor it in order for it to not be protested and then destroyed or taken away. People are always going to abuse things, good things, bad things. And so I think, there's a line on freedom of speech. You know, some things you just should be common sense to not say. It just should be common sense that. And I get not everybody has common sense in the time, in the era that everybody has an outlet to say it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's frustrating that everyone has accessibility to like sending their thoughts out to the world on like this global scale, and they don't have common sense. That's
right. I think that's the worst combination of social media, is like somebody who has absolutely no regard.
Yeah. And so acceptance is a good thing to have. Like, I mean, it's a great, it's a great word. It's a great action. But sometimes it's just taken too far, like most things. I don't have to accept certain things. Like, I don't believe in that.
Right.
You know,
so that's where we're going. Oh, yeah.
Right.
So that was definitely something we were talking about, which was how the world is starting to force you to believe in something because politically it's correct, or by society's standards it is. Literally, it's forced on you to believe a certain type of way now, where it's like, oh, well, not even believe. You don't have to believe it, but pretend like you are okay with it because it's popular to be okay with it. And you're going to hurt a lot of people if you're not okay with it. I just feel like that's the worst society to live in, is where everyone's walking around pretending to be okay with you. I'd actually rather someone just be like blatantly honest. Like, you know, I don't understand it. I don't believe in it. And I've actually been told that, and never have I been like, what? You don't believe in it? Let me tell you. Unless it's like something where you're just like actually in my face about it, and I'm just like, well, hold on. But like, far as like you not understanding why I'm gay, or understanding why I have dreadlocks or tattoos, like, I'm not going to be mad at you for not being okay with tattoos. I'm just going to move around and get into a space that, you know, I feel comfortable. So I feel like that's such a negative way, or negative direction that we're going, where it's like people are literally shaming you for not being okay with certain things. Like, that's one part of our progressive movement that I'm not okay with. I'm not okay that people is having to pretend like they're okay with certain things because it's you're gonna like videotape them and shame them about it and put a caption on it and deem them as the worst person in the world. Like, of course there's like some responsibility you have to take with that. Like, if you are to call somebody, you know, a derogatory slur or something like that, at the end of the day you're gonna have to deal with that. But I don't feel like they should have to be sorry if that's how they feel. I feel sorry for you that you feel that way, but I don't have to shame you for feeling that way. Just, it sucks that you feel that way, and let it be that. Stop forcing people to be okay with stuff now. It's making everybody a little less genuine right now.
It's gonna go too far. It's just gonna go too far that we have to not be able to speak on the things that we don't believe in. Like, that's what makes every culture so rich, is being able to have multiple sides of something.
Right. What's a conversation without disagreement and without perspective?
Right. Exactly. Perspective is what it is. And good. Imagine a world if everybody was believing in the same thing.
I agree. Right.
That's just, that would be so stressful. I think it'd be very gray and boring. Like
True.
sometimes, I mean, it just adds a little passion to things and lets you probably know. It's a confirmation for you. They don't believe in this, and this is the world they come from. I don't come from that world.
Right.
I'm happy about the world I come
And
from.
I don't want to live in a world that accepting and pretending are like cousins now.
Right.
Yeah, like they're pretty much like the same thing, because it's like you don't really, but like you don't want to piss a group off. They're protesting outside your house about it. Like,
And why are you so pissed off?
thank you. That's my.
What are you so
why
mad
are
about?
so? Thank
Everybody, the people who go out of their way to tell you they don't accept you, and for you to go out of your way to say you should though.
Right, both ways. Like, who's ever taking it like over the top needs to like, as long as you're not like hurting
Accept yourself.
Well, it's like you're not hurting people. Like, it's just. But then again, I feel like everybody just needs to stop being so sensitive all the time. That's another thing. And I don't want to blame society too much. But at the end, here I go with that thing. I really just want people to stop getting upset all the time and stop taking things so personal. I see memes about that all the time that I actually like that are circulating. Is like, in order for you to grow, you really just got to stop taking stuff so personal. Because like, I don't want to be mad anymore. I don't want to be mad about things, especially if I'm not doing anything to change it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're bitching about something constantly but you're actually doing nothing to change it, then your argument is invalid. Like, you're not really doing anything but being mad all day, and that's causing trouble in your every day-to-day life.
Yeah, well, that has a lot to do with the fact that you don't have anything to do.
Oh, man,
You need
I'm
to
telling
do something.
you, it's so bored.
And it doesn't even have to be that. Like, I think you can have an opinion about stuff. Like, I mean, we can retain so much information. And so, yeah, again, that common sense word. Like, sometimes you can have an opinion about something because of, like, you don't have to have gone through it, but like, you see the general things that are going on surrounding it. So you can have an understanding, just a mild understanding about it, but do you have to be halfly educated and so mad about it?
That's on like
About other things. I just think that's
That's
just so
on
much
both
about
sides.
yourself. It says, again, that's what I'm saying. Like, there scenarios. A person who's screaming, like, accept me, probably is really screaming about a family member who is not accepting them. Like, they're mad about that, and
stop
they need to deal with
putting
that.
that on other people.
And people who are angry about, who gets pissed off when they see something. Like, is that boy wearing a purse?
Right. Why are you like looking?
Why are you so mad about that?
Right.
Is
and
that
just-
your purse?
Right.
Like, I can understand, like, if your purse went missing
And that motherfucker was wearing it.
and you walk by and you're like, is somebody got a damn purse?
But seriously.
He went to the store
And
bought
it's
his
not
own purse.
It's not your kid. It's not it's
Or
no
maybe,
one.
but that person might be scared their kid is gay. And that's why
Right,
they're
and
looking
they're
at
pissed
some
off
random person on the street.
It's my son just like you. What the
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, I get, so I think those experiences are subjective, and people's opinions are so subjective. And I think that is just that's such a horrible expectation to have on life, is to wonder if all these people are okay with what you believe.
Yeah, I think when we were actually talking about acceptance, and just to make it like personal so I can stop pointing at you, I'm talking about me. When I think about like something that was a big passion of mine is dancing, and it was mixed with something that I don't care too much about, which is religion. But I used that to actually, dance. And they told me like, hey, like, you're gay. Go away. Like, you can't dance anymore. And
Yeah, so the church told you couldn't dance anymore in their praise team because you were gay.
yes. And I find that so funny, because it's just like, what does that have to do with me dancing? Am I gonna spread my gay around when I twirl, or why can't I
Gay
dance?
glitter is going to come off your
Look
skirt.
at her. She's gay, I can tell. And it just really had nothing to do with it. But when I think about the day, and anybody that knows me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to dance and I loved it. It was a passion of mine. And I literally stopped doing that in a place that told me that I wasn't allowed to be myself. Because all my life, like, I've never pretended to be somebody. Like I may have lied in my life. I have maybe manipulated, but it's never been pretending to be somebody that I wasn't. Even in that moment, it was just like, well, if this means I can't be me, then I can't. Sayonara.
I mean, as if you couldn't have danced anywhere else.
Right.
Either. I mean, but that's acceptance with self. I mean, so a person who couldn't accept that about themselves would have done everything the church expected just to get back on the team.
Oh yeah,
And
I
what's the
don't
point
mess
of-
with those people. I have no respect for people, and I really apologize for the the mental strain it puts on you to have to walk around pretending to be somebody that you're not, to keep something that you could regain elsewhere. Is just like it's a slap in the face to me, to personally. Like when you're standing up for a cause, had anybody said she's gonna dance still, I would have respected that person more so. To say I can't agree with somebody who would throw their whole life away to be approved by somebody else, like someone else's standards of how they should live, knowing that they're not happy within it. Just
Well,
sounds
being
terrible.
accepting of yourself and being able to see through their intentions is
Yeah.
what made you stronger because of that. Because anyone who believed in the power of God and church would be like, no, this is where they need to be.
Right.
If I don't agree that they're gay and God is the way, then this is where they need to be.
Right. Dance harder.
Why dance for the Lord, and maybe you'll surrender that to Him, like if
Right.
that's what you believe in. But that's what I'm saying.
But that's why their beliefs are opinion based on how they feel on the inside. You know what I mean? It actually they try to put that on God, like God said, and it's just like, but you have something about it that's unusual. There's some unusual hate within you that you need to stop blaming God for. You know what I mean?
Or maybe it has nothing to do with God, and you're making it about Him when it's not.
As a shield, as a way to say, well, look, I don't hate you, God does. Don't blame it on me. I'm a good person. I have a big heart. Well, do you?
Absolutely. Well, that's the problem with cherry picking. That's the problem, you know?
We could get off into how bad the church is, but I'm sure you
I don't
guys.
agree with that.
What?
I couldn't go in how bad because yes, they have a history of being bad, but I can say, as far as acceptance, if I were to make it personal, I feel like, coming from our background, it saved me, and I'm so glad that I had that trial and error there at the age that I did, when I was exposed at church for being gay and shamed in front of the whole church. Everybody knew. Everybody sat there and they looked at me and they laughed at me because I was gay. And the bishop of that church, he pulled us in and accepted us before he knew what was going on. And for him and all of them to turn away from us like that when they realized that we were gay,
That's not love.
That's not love. But it also let me know, like, the day or the time or the development of my life when I accepted that I was gay and not crazy, that was the best. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't
So
know.
I would say, would it have something to do with?
Who I am is accepting that I was gay. Like that, from that day on, I loved myself completely, and I never gave in.
Wouldn't that have a lot to do with, like, that's how strong acceptance is, because, like, I would say, in the face of public shaming, you did not turn away and say, oh, no, it's not that at all. It was literally like, yep.
Well, I believed
going
that.
on.
I believed I was gay when they were telling me. Then they were like, it was wrong. But it did not feel wrong at all to me.
That was a good, that's really good. Of course we know that religion has this, like, really, or religious people have this really, like, odd fascination with who people are sleeping with, because it definitely goes, like, beyond gay people, because it's like, it's this big thing about adultery.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad at the church. I don't hate the church. That they gave me something to do, and I did come into myself at that time in my life. It was like, it was just such a complicated situation that turned out, to me, I find I got to be very educated on religion. I found it, like, I loved hearing about it because I thought, no. And now when people present that argument to me, I'm like, oh, no.
I've been there.
I don't. I know the Bible very well. I went to church a lot, And that's why I don't agree with it. I'm not just saying it because it's boring.
Or I'm like trying to defend myself, like
Right.
to say like, no, this is me. Like, no, I've actually questioned me.
Right.
You know how many people actually question themselves before like self-proclaiming? That's why we have like a lot of identity issues going on, because it's like, how often do you just sit down and say, no, I'm sure of this? Do you research yourself? Like, that's just one thing that I would say is like, I'd make it very clear, like, I've never regretted either any way I was found out about being gay, how I was exposed, how I chose to tell people. I don't think it came as a shock to anyone. We just didn't really know what to call it, or we were too afraid to call it that, whatever. But that's just one thing. I think at the end of the day, when you think about like regret, and it's like, that's just one thing I don't. And the world definitely wants, like you were telling me, like that's common to say, like, you're gonna have to live with this. You know, you might regret this. I even remember my aunt telling me like, gay people are bitter, and I'm just like, what? I'm not bitter.
And they're right, and that era of bitter lesbians and gays was just that overwhelming need to be accepted by people, and that came on with religion, because religion was something normal that
Or
was
y'all's
going on
like
in all the homes.
obsession to tell them that they weren't normal or accepted.
But
like,
that was on a religion. No one can tell you otherwise why it's wrong in a way that they care. Like, I can get you saying, well, you can't produce babies. Like, that's fact. That's science.
Right.
And I'm not going to argue with you on that front. But if you're saying morally it's wrong because of God, I'm just like, well, that is a subjective statement. Like, if I'm not worshiping that God, then it doesn't affect me at all.
Right.
And the heaven or hell you're saying I'm going to be going to later,
you can excuse me.
I cannot even process that if I'm in hell now. Right. My hell, which your Bible or your religion says is a place of torment. Now, if you believe in hellfire, then it's physical torment. Or if you believe in it on any other dimension, then it's just despair. The Bible, a weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's just a place where you are hateful and you're angry, and what you feel in your inside is death and despair. To walk on this planet feeling that way so that you don't have to go to a place that's going to feel just like it later.
Right.
That's redundant. Like, right. I'll have my heaven now then. If I'm going to hell, I'll have my heaven now, which is to be at peace with myself and do what's going to make me happy. And it's not even going to hurt you. It's not even going to affect you. Like, you don't even got to be here for it.
Right.
Like, that's a great peace of mind for me to have when I'm on my deathbed, is knowing that I didn't prostitute myself to make you feel good about where I'm going when I die.
Right. So I think when we talk about acceptance in society, acceptance in religion, acceptance with oneself, it definitely goes into more so like, it should be self-motivated. Acceptance should be self-motivated. It should be governed within. It really should not be looked at as some outside occurrence. Like, you need that to go on. I think like we were saying, it's just like, if you take a moment to know yourself and learn how to react to people not being okay with who you are, I think that's where you truly will find you. Because it's like, you're with you. You die with you. I mean, I'm an identical twin and I'm still going alone. I came into this world with someone and I'm going out alone. And I can still say that it matters most to me what I think about me. Like, imagine me and Jamie weren't both gay. Imagine that either I or Jamie were heterosexual. I would still have to face what I thought of me, and it still wouldn't have anything to do with Jamie being born in the same sack. It would still not matter what she thought, because it has to be about me. And like, I really liked your analogies about emotional hell and torment on earth, when you literally have to feel disparity because someone or a large group of people aren't okay with you, but you are.
Right. And I get that some people make it hell when they don't agree. Like, if they don't agree with you and they shame you, they beat you up, they bully you, they discriminate, they segregate, you because like that's an actual tangible and physical reason to be hurt by people not accepting you. Like I would get that. You would want them to accept you because you would want them to stop hurting you. Yeah. If you don't understand you, then you're not going to be able to understand others. I highly agree with that. I mean, you have to take a look at yourself when making judgments towards other people. In the end, whether you're being judged or are judging people, it always has to come back to you. When you're considering your feelings getting hurt by some things, always think about the context of why is it bothering me so much? What about it might be true? Or what about it do I have history or trauma with that's making this affect me so deeply? And the same could be for the opposite party. Why is it bothering me so much about them? What about my trauma and my history makes me so angry about that?
That's true. That's very true. But if we actually look at what compromise means, it's actually something that we're asking of people when it comes to being accepted, which is a settlement of differences by arbitration or by consent reached by mutual concessions. So it's actually saying neither one of us is right, neither one of us is wrong. Let's just agree to disagree. That's kind of where compromise is coming from. So I think with your loved ones, I think that's the best to compromise. You shouldn't have to compromise with a stranger if you're going to take it to like a deeper level, but it would be nice that strangers could just come to a compromise. But more so to say, I think that would be a great place to start in the world, is if we could all start to make compromises with one another.
I definitely agree with that, but the thing is, I think the definition that people have of compromise in their mind is different than what you just read.
So they're using it, and they're using it differently.
Well, there's a connotation to compromise, and there's a denotation to compromise. And but we're always going to connotate things because we're emotional human beings.
Well, there's actually two definitions to compromise. The second is going to be a concession to something derogatory or prejudice. So a compromise of principles. So you can actually be on either side of the compromise. So it's actually, like you were saying, how are we using compromise? So again, no one's wrong or right when it comes to compromise. It's how you're using it. So are you asking me because you're saying that I'm not wrong and you're not wrong and I'm not right and you're not right? Like we're just saying we believe what we believe? Are you saying I need to be okay with what you believe and not okay with what I believe because you just want to be right in this circumstance right now? Like you need me to be something so you can be okay with whatever your role is in my life.
That's asking too much from somebody.
I think that's what most people do. Is definitely the second. The first.
Yep. Yeah. So where we should be is on the first definition of compromise and not the second, because that's where we're starting to hurt people when it comes to our differences. I think that is a fine line between
but we
like
hurt the people closest to us. Like that's what we do because we know how.
Yes.
We know how to hurt them. Like you don't know how to hurt people. You don't know.
Which makes it very evil at the end of the day. It actually is very premeditated.
No, yes. And it's affecting them in some way. It's doing something to them, which again is not your problem. Like you have no control over what a person is going through spiritually with themselves that makes them so bothered, or why you're so bothered with something.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm not gonna sit here and like demonize people that like are bothered by certain things and they don't know why, because I think. Like, I just listened to, like, the worst rap by Iggy Azalea I've ever heard in my life. And it bothered me. And it bothered me to the point where I said, screen record that and send it to me. So I could look at it again and analyze why I was so pissed off that happened. So, and I'm sure Iggy would be like, why are you so pressed on my bad rhyming? And I'd just be like, because it was disturbing to anybody that watched it. Even you, if you go back and watch that, I'll be surprised at you that you're not bothered by what you did. But like, still, like, that's just my opinion. Why am I bothered by it? Am I going to go write her a letter of how pissed off I am about it? No. So that's my level of, bothered. I'm not going to go out of my way to make you understand that I'm bothered by you. I'm just going to keep it to myself. So I think that's another route I want to take, is why we're so determined to let people know that we don't agree with them. Like, I think that's the world we live in. Like, everything's like this argument where it's like, I don't agree with you, and I'm gonna go out of my way to tell you that I don't agree. Now, I might spark a conversation like, hey, I actually don't agree with this. I can tell someone's bothered immediately when they don't respond. When someone doesn't say, well, why? Because they don't care for my perspective on it. They're saying, I agree, and I don't care if you don't agree. And at the same time, I think, well, that's stupid, because you never want to learn. Like, I don't fuck with people that just want to stay in their own bubble of what they believe, because it'll especially be the people who say they're so like open-minded, but the minute that they're disagreed with, it's like shut down. Like, I'm argumentative, so I'm gonna like fight you on it. Like, I want to know. I'm asking questions. Don't take it personal. I'm passionate. Everything that's coming at you right now is passionate. I'm challenging you on what you say you believe in. And if you can't stand up for your beliefs, don't say you don't fucking believe in it.
And I can tell you why I do. Like, if we're gonna, I'm not
Yeah,
a person
flip
who's
the
gonna
script.
go around and start talking about it. But if it's brought to me and you ask me, I will be happy to tell you.
Yeah.
But I am also willing to hear why you do too. Why do you believe in that?
Yeah.
And then we can meet with that compromise. Then we can get there to that compromise where we're talking about. But if you're not protesting, if you're not reacting, then you won't understand that.
Yeah.
So you have to let a person accept in a way, however that way is, as long as it's not going to hurt you physically, your life is not at stake. Well, so, okay, guys, so if I'm going to like bring up an example, and I'm going to go to our far left side of it, and we're going to reach a little back into the past to talk about this accepting thing. And this is as far as I'll go with the conversation, so I hope it doesn't inflame people. But Caitlyn Jenner, when we were asked to accept that Bruce Jenner was going to become Caitlyn Jenner, she was not yet Caitlyn Jenner for 2-3 months before she was nominated and rewarded with Woman of the Year.
Which was
a person
slap
who
in the face.
was not even a woman for 365. Was
Yo.
awarded Woman of the Year. And we asked everyone to accept their American hero, by the way, their Olympic gold medalist, who was, this embodiment of what a man was supposed to be before our time. And so we don't know how emotionally charged people are for that and what their experience with having to go through that. To accept that he was going to become this and give him notoriety on a scale that he didn't deserve yet.
But that's what they do.
That's pretending to accept.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not
Oh,
true.
yeah. Absolutely.
We went out of our way to say that this wasn't okay.
Yep.
And we didn't think about the people that it was going to hurt.
Yep.
So sometimes accepting things can look good if that's what if you want it to look good, but do you want it to be meaningful?
But that's when it just doesn't become the word anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they were
Absolutely.
overcompensating for a lack of equality that they did that. That's what they that's what they did with, what was protested? Like the Oscars or something, when they were saying like, a lot of black people aren't being rewarded. So then they went on like this Oscar giving spree of
Jada Pinkett had started that whole boycott the Oscar thing.
Yeah, and then they just like started just giving them away because they want to like appropriate. And it's like, first of all, we weren't saying just give Oscars away. They were just saying like, you guys need to be a little bit more, broad on the spectrum. So like, you need to be a little bit more diverse. It doesn't mean like, let's just make this black Oscars. Let's just give them away. Like, and I'm not saying there is anybody that hasn't deserved it. It's more so I find that just ironic. Like, I think that we were right in the middle of like the military ban, where they were going through like, transgenders out of the army, and America's being shamed about it. So then here they come with, and it wouldn't even have anything to do with politics. It was like the entertainment industry that wanted to be, recognized for their humanitarianism. When I think about like people that are just trying to appropriate so they can stay with the times and stay, just like, there's a way to do it. Let's gradually come into something that's earned and deserved, not like, you're feeling bad about it, so you just like overcompensate.
Yeah, that is a whole lot. I mean, and even it doesn't have to be something even as extreme as gender and race. I mean, with pop culture, Leonardo DiCaprio, give him an Oscar. And when did he get an Oscar? Right after that.
Right.
And who can say that was the best movie? We have all seen Leonardo DiCaprio movies. We know dude should have been got an Oscar for some of the things that but they gave him one for that, which we wouldn't even rank in the top 5 Leonardo DiCaprio movies.
I hate to believe that we're going to come into a world where no one has a mind of their own. Because I feel like people are fighting so hard to have that, but yet still like being consumed by the molding of social media, where it's like, I want the best of both worlds, which need I bring you to an analogy that's been getting on my fucking nerves. When people say, you want to have your cake and eat it too. All I want to say is, who the fuck would have a cake and not eat it? I just don't get where that comes from. Why do we say that? That is just so dumb.
So how do you relate that to the conversation?
It's like, I relate it to being accepted, where it's like, you just want to, you want everybody to like you while you don't have to make any adjustments to yourself. That's exactly what I want. It's not having my cake and eating it too. It is that. Yes, I want to have this cake and I want to eat it, because I'm not going to just fucking look at it.
And there's always a line with anything. Too much of anything.
Right. Don't eat the whole cake. Have a piece.
Yeah. Exactly. Have a slice.
Have a slice of your own cake.
Absolutely. But yeah, it'll be bad for you if you are overly, like, if you need everybody to accept you without making changes. You have to understand that there is something about you that's not worth accepting, and you probably need to do something about that. And it probably is affecting people. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing something that does affect people, like being selfish or overindulging yourself, always talking about you and never worrying about other people.
Right, so people can see those aspects and point them out and tell you how great you are.
Right. If you need to be praised all the time, I mean, are you really doing it for the right reasons? And that's why you're unable to congratulate yourself and be okay with that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You're asking people to give you that acknowledgement because you can't do it yourself. And that's just like something that you should stop and look at. Like, I think that when we wrap this up and when we're talking about it, it's just like, really, this isn't like to talk about something that's popular or to be all spiritual and blah, blah, blah. It's literally to say you're living in a world that is truly shaping and molding your mind. It's molding your identity, and you really sometimes got to step back and say, whoa, who am I? Do I accept me? Am I okay with this me? And it doesn't, and I really encourage you not to say, would 30-year-old me or would 50-year-old me, would they be okay with this? Because it's like, stop throwing yourself into the future, because it's stopping you from doing what you want to do.
And humble yourself. Like, you don't know if you're going to be here at 50.
Right.
You don't even know.
How dare you?
I mean, live for the future. I mean, plan some steps ahead, but your moral landscape right now is completely through experience. And how can you prepare for some things that you haven't really experienced for yourself yet?
Point being, move on, America. Let's just again, you can continue to believe what you want to believe, long as it's not hurting anyone else. But please stop projecting it on other people, because now we're starting to cross that line where acceptance really isn't acceptance if you have to conform. Or actually, you know what? Let's back up. I actually did want to tell you guys that when we break down normal, it actually means like you're willing to conform. So that's another thing where we encourage you not to want to be normal. Just demand respect or just
be a respectable person.
Yeah.
Just that. You don't need to demand respect from anybody. Respect yourself, carry yourself as such, and the rest will follow.
Well, I do think some people don't. Sometimes you do actually need to demand respect. At the end, that to me, when somebody crosses a certain boundary, and instead of reacting and acting wild, or the video that you actually reference a lot, where the lady was yelling at the person to call her a she, and she's screaming at them and telling them you call me this,
sir. I heard you say sir. It's ma'am. It's me.
Yeah, and to me it's okay, to some degree you demand that, but there's a way you could have gone about it. So it's just like if somebody crosses a certain barrier with you, you should definitely put your foot down and say,
Right.
I'm going to tell you this once. Like, I'm okay with who I am. I don't need your approval, but when you're in my presence, you're going to respect me. I didn't say accept. I didn't say tolerate. I say leave your hate at the door when you're talking to me. That's
Right.
it. Especially if you have to deal with me. Especially if you're in customer service and you want my money. You're living off of my money. So I expect you to be respectful, and that's it. You don't have to agree. That's
Yes,
that.
But in that person's case, it was so much deeper, and you could tell by the temperament that this was beyond like
This was a show.
it was a cry for help. Like they probably did do that to be spiteful. Like we don't know what happened before that video came on. They could have been snickering. This could have been the 15th, upteenth thousandth time this person has said "sir" to be disrespectful. To say that, like, sir, I will not be coming back to this store again, or tell them your opinion, tell them off, but to have the energy to go explode like that is bottled up anger, pent up anger from other situations you're carrying in here, and that is not someone else's burden to carry all the time. That you haven't dealt with things to the point that you're willing to just lay it all out on this person. To be so angry, to be so bothered, it says something about you is all I'm saying. So, yep, there is a level to acceptance. Like, people should respect you. Absolutely. People should show respect. But sometimes people aren't, and you have to be prepared for that because this is not La La Land.
Well, that's why we feel like you should, like, literally just accept yourself. I think when we conclude, you really need to accept yourself. Like you said, there's going to be people that don't, and you need to know how to behave yourself when they don't. You need to be able to control your emotions when you're not.
So accept yourself.
Agreed. Yeah, exactly.
You need to accept yourself before you walk out the door.
Right.
Like before you walk out of the door, you need to be okay with your plan and your decision making that you're going to have for the day. Because it might be tried. And when you demand anything from anybody, it should definitely be respect before accept.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Because that's a you thing. As long as you accept it, as long as you get to go home at night and sleep, like that's the biggest peace of mind.